Good afternoon, everyone. In a statement today, Irina Bokova, the Director General of the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, expressed profound regret at the decision of the United States of America to withdraw from UNESCO. She said that after receiving official notification by the United States Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. She cited the many common goals shared by UNESCO and the United States. At a time when conflicts continue to tear apart societies across the world, Ms. Bokova said, it is deeply regrettable for the United States to withdraw from the United Nations agency promoting education for peace and protecting culture under attack. She added that UNESCO will continue to work for the universality of this organization, for the values we share, for the objectives we hold in common, to strengthen a more effective multilateral order and a more peaceful, more just world. I would like to add that the Secretary General deeply regrets the U.S. withdrawal in light of the major role that the U.S. has played in UNESCO since its founding. The Special Representative of the Secretary General in Haiti and head of MINUSTAH, Sandra Honoré, gave her last briefing to the Security Council before the end of the mission this weekend. She said that 13 and a half years after MINUSTAH was established, Haiti has a very different outlook, despite the many challenges still facing the country. The Haitian people enjoy a considerable degree of security and greater stability. Political violence has diminished considerably, and armed gangs no longer hold the population hostage, also thanks to the work of the National Police, now 14,000 agents strong. However, she stressed that those achievements, while significant, are only initial steps. The most urgent task confronting Haiti today is to ensure the conditions for continued stability, thereby enabling long-term socio-economic development. Mrs. Honoré said that the new mission, MINUJUST, which becomes operational in 4 days from now, stands ready to play an effective role alongside the UN country team. She also stressed that the UN will continue to make every effort to assist the government in alleviating the suffering caused by the cholera epidemic. Finally, Ms. Honoré said it has been an honor to serve under the flag of the United Nations and to support Haiti and the Haitian people in the creation of conditions which ultimately allowed the Council to decide on the closure of MINUSTAH. And she will be at the stakeout once the meeting is over, and that should take place just a few minutes from now. The Undersecretary General for Political Affairs, Jeffrey Feldman, will visit Myanmar from the 13th to 17th of October. Following the Secretary General's repeated calls for an end to the military operations and violence in northern Rakhine State, unfettered access for humanitarian support, and the safe, voluntary, dignified, and sustainable return of refugees to their areas of origin, Mr. Feldman will be undertaking consultations with a view to addressing these urgent issues in close cooperation with Myanmar. His discussions will also focus on building a constructive partnership between Myanmar and the United Nations to tackle the underlying issues affecting all communities in the areas concerned. UN humanitarian agencies report that as of yesterday, the number of Rohingya refugees who have fled Myanmar for Bangladesh since last August has reached 536,000, with 14,000 people having crossed the border in the past 2 days. UNICEF and the government of Bangladesh agreed yesterday to quickly construct 10,000 latrines in camps and settlements for Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar to avert a major disease outbreak. Each latrine will cost just under $150, and they will provide sanitation coverage to some 250,000 people. UNICEF says there have already been reports of waterborne diseases in the camps, stressing the need to enhance sanitation coverage. Our colleagues from the UN mission in Afghanistan today released a report which found that civilian deaths and injuries in the country remain near record high levels during the first 9 months of this year. The mission documented 2,640 deaths and 5,379 wounded people during 2017, which represents a 1% increase in deaths and a 9% decrease in the number of wounded from the same period last year. The report is available online. UNICEF has received reports that ongoing violence in EZZOUR in eastern Syria has destroyed a UNICEF-sponsored vaccine cold room in Al Mayadeen district, with at least 140,000 doses of vaccines lost, including some planned for the ongoing vaccination drive in the area. UNICEF is currently verifying this alarming report. The reported attack is likely to hamper efforts to protect children from diseases. Al Mayadeen is the center of an outbreak of vaccine-derived polio, which has so far paralyzed 48 children since March 2017. Our humanitarian colleagues also received reports that airstrikes in Al Quria city in eastern rural EZZOUR yesterday reportedly killed at least 20 people, wounded many others, and damaged a mosque. With today marking 1 year since the start of the military campaign to take Mosul from Daesh, the humanitarian coordinator for Iraq, Liz Grande, says that of the 1 million people who fled the city, some 673,000 are still displaced from their homes. She noted that the number of people who fled exceeded the worst-case projections of aid workers. While a vast majority of people have returned to their homes in eastern Mosul, conditions in the western part of the city are very difficult. Also in Iraq, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs led a joint mission to the recently retaken Hawija district to assess the needs of people who remained in the area during the military offensive. The mission found that the most acute needs are water, sanitation and hygiene, and medical assistance. In a statement we issued last night, the Secretary General welcomed the peaceful holding of the presidential and House of Representatives elections in Liberia on the 10th of October, and congratulated the people of Liberia who turned out enthusiastically in high numbers to vote. The Secretary General reiterates the continued support of the United Nations to the consolidation of peace and democracy in Liberia. The full statement is online. The Deputy Secretary General will travel tomorrow for 1 day to Washington, D.C. to participate in the World Bank International Monetary Fund annual meetings. She will attend the Ministerial Luncheon on Sustainable Development Goals and will deliver remarks at the high-level event entitled After the Storm, Recovery and Resilience in the Caribbean. She will also have bilateral meetings with high-level government officials and with senior officers from the World Bank. Today, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change announced the winners of this year's UN Momentum for Change Climate Solutions Award, which seeks to shine a light on innovative, scalable, and practical examples of what people across the globe are doing to combat climate change. This year's winners include a women-led eco-fashion business in Italy, an ICT tool that helps farmers in Latin America analyze weather data, and a green credit card that rewards users in the Republic of Korea for environmentally friendly activities such as using public transport and saving electricity. There's more information on the UNFCCC website. I also want to flag that the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, today appointed Ms. Elizabeth Iro as the Chief Nursing Officer at WHO. Ms. Iro is a registered nurse and the Cook Islands' current Secretary of Health. With this announcement, Dr. Tedros fulfills a commitment he made during his transition to the Director General role to appoint a nurse to his senior team. More details about this are available on the World Health Organization's website. And for press conferences, tomorrow at 1 p.m. there will be a press conference here by Jens Modvig, Chair of the Committee Against Torture, along with Malcolm Evans, Chair of the Subcommittee on Prevention of Torture, and Nils Melzer, Special Rapporteur on Torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. That's it for me. Are there any questions? Yes, Evelyn.
Thank you, Farhan. Do you have more details on Mr. Feldman's visit? Is he going to Rakhine, and who's he meeting with?
At this stage, these are the details that we have. We'll try to provide some more once he's on the ground, and we'll give you some updates about his meetings. Yes.
Same on the same topic. So now it's said that Renata Locke-Dessalin is leaving by the end of October. Since the Secretary General so recently said he fully supports her, what's the connection between that and what's seen to be has a replacement been named? What explains her leaving at this time? Is it Mr. Feldman's mandate to get the government to accept a particular replacement, to accept an Assistant Secretary General, and what changed between the announcement by the Secretary General that he fully supported her and her decision now to leave by the end of the month?
Well, first of all, we had announced even as early as this spring at this very briefing that we expected to rotate Ms. Locke-Dessalin over the course of this year, and we've been trying to make the appropriate arrangements. We are now closer to that stage. She has been there for 3 years and 10 months, which is actually a fairly long time for her to be in one position. And the Secretary General, of course, continues to support her fully while she goes about her job. But at some point, she will be back at a different posting, and so her time is ending. And the regular rotation of that position will go on.
But when you say you're closer to it, does the UN have a candidate that Mr. Feldman will be arguing for? And also, I guess it just seems like if the reason to not have moved her out in June was that there wasn't a replacement in place, there's still not a replacement in place. So what changed?
There are times when we announce our replacements. We'll know it when we announce it, and then we should announce it at some point. Yes, in the back.
Yeah, you did talk about Liberian election. I wanted to find out if there's already a winner, and if there's none, is the UN on standby? Should there be an issue that needs to be dealt with? Because last I checked, they're running neck and neck with George Weah and the former vice president of the country. Thank you.
At this stage, there's no confirmation from the electoral bodies on the ground of who has won that election. We will, of course, continue to monitor developments on the ground. We trust and expect that all parties, if they have any problems with the course of the electoral process, would channel their objections through the electoral system. Yes.
Farhan, concerning the U.S. withdrawal from UNESCO, what can you tell us about what this says about the state of relationships between the U.S. and the UN? The Secretary General invested a lot of personal energy in trying to keep it stable, and basically they're walking out of UNESCO.
Well, like I said, the Secretary General does deeply regret this decision to withdraw from UNESCO. At the same time, of course, we interact with the United States very productively on a range of issues through a range of organizations, and we'll continue to do that. The U.S. and the United Nations have always had a deep and complex relationship spanning the work of dozens of UN organizations and entities. Obviously, as with other member states, there are times when there may be differences on this or that issue, but the Secretary General, as you've seen, works well with the government of the U.S. and will continue to interact with them in an effort to make sure that we can continue to achieve our common goals. Yes.
Farhan, about developments in Iraq, yesterday, Wednesday, Kurdish authorities said that they feared an Iraqi forces and the allied Shiite militias that will launch an assault on Kurdistan region. Basically, in the last 24 hours, situation was very tense. Iraq was on brink of another war. Does the Secretary General has anything else to say or do other than the usual call for calm?
Right now, as you're well aware, we have our officials, including our special representative there, Jan Kubish, who are dealing with the parties. We continue to stress the need to resolve all issues through structured dialogue and constructive compromise. We do continue to expect that the calm that has prevailed will continue to prevail, and we are working with all sides to ensure that it does so. Yes.
Stefan, on Syria, does the Secretary General have a view on whether the JIM should continue its work past its that its mandate should be renewed, which comes to term in November?
Well, the decision on the mandate is one that's up to the member states of the Security Council, and we'll leave it in their hands. Obviously, the joint investigation mechanism has been going about its work. I believe that they will brief the Security Council. Mr. Moulet will brief the Security Council sometime over the next week or so about the work that they're doing, and you will probably have an opportunity to talk to him then about their work. As far as I'm aware, there are some concerns that they are still trying to address, but it's up to the members of council to make sure that they can go about all their mandated tasks. Yes.
Sorry, question on Myanmar. Can you tell me why the resident coordinator is ending her term? I understand she's been there a long time. Before a replacement is named, we're very close to the end of the month. Will there be somebody in place replacing her?
We expect that that we will have a replacement in line, obviously, but because that, of course, is the nature of the rotation process. This is something that we've been trying to achieve for some months. As we first mentioned in the springtime, that we were going to be undergoing this rotation. She's stayed past that point, and of course we've supported the work that she has been doing and continues to do. But at some point, yes, there's going to be a transition, as we had previously said.
Will the transition be in place by the time she leaves?
Well, let's see, but we'll make an announcement once we can announce the replacement. I don't have that announcement ready just yet. Yes.
I understand you don't have a name yet on that, but does the Secretary General believe that it should be at the Assistant Secretary General level as was proposed, and does he have any view whether, in retrospect, the ending of the mandate was then Mr. Nambiar was well timed in terms of the UN system? I understand that was a member state decision, but given what's happened since, what has he learned in terms of UN reform about that decision?
Well, regarding that, as you yourself pointed out, this was a decision taken by member states. We respect that decision. We are going to continue to do our work on Myanmar, and as you see, we've raised it up at high levels regardless. The Secretary General himself, as you know, has taken this up, including directly with the Security Council. So we're continuing to express what our concerns are, even without that position in place. And of course, regarding Ms. Luc Desilien, this is, like I said, an effort that's been underway for some time now. Yes.
My question is about Turkey. The visa crisis between Turkey and the United States has been increasing. So does the UN has been affected by that?
No, we've been continuing our functions in Turkey without any effect caused by this particular issue. Yes.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, Stefan had made sort of a mention of a new sexual abuse and exploitation case in CAR, but as you may know, Amnesty International has said publicly that they've interviewed a 19-year-old woman who says that she was both drugged and then raped by UN peacekeepers in Bambari in CAR. And it's a very detailed account. She was on her way to a funeral. She was offered tea. She woke up naked and having been raped. And I'm just wondering, what steps has the UN taken with regard to the peacekeeper at issue or other peacekeepers in this case?
Well, regarding that, yes, we were provided with information that members of one contingent sexually abused a 16-year-old girl, not a 19-year-old girl, by the way. The information we have is that she's 16, on the 30th of September. As of the 10th of October, which is Tuesday, the UN mission informed the relevant country through official channels from the Department of Field Support for further investigation and action. And what we're expecting is we've requested that normally a member state has up to 10 working days to respond to the UN about whether it will investigate the matter through the appointment of a national investigation officer, and we've requested that this be expedited to 5 days. So we're awaiting a reply.
And is the member state at issue Mauritania?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Farhan, on Iran, other than the nuclear deal, there's right now, as you know, there's a debate, especially between the U.S. and the European Union, members of the European Union, about whether to be more critical of the human rights records in Iran. Where does Secretary General stands in this debate when it's come to human rights records in Iran?
Regarding human rights, obviously, all states need to have their records closely examined. That includes Iran, but it includes all other countries as well. We want to make sure that if there are human rights problems in a country, all nations have to go through a process of reviewing them so that their records will be improved. Yes.
Is the UN monitoring the political situation in Kenya? There's been a massive crackdown of protesters there. Thank you.
Yes, we have been. I mean, we're continuing to follow the situation closely on the ground. Along those lines, we would like to stress the importance of dialogue among the political actors in Kenya And it's critical that all political stakeholders send clear messages of peace and restraint to their supporters. And of course, that would also entail that the security forces in the country abide by that. Yes.
Any comment on Odinga having pulled out of the second election? Is anyone asking him from the UN to reconsider?
Well, like I said, we would like to stress the importance of dialogue among all the political actors in Kenya, and that also includes in reference to the actions taken by Mr. Odinga. Yes.
Sure. I wanted to ask about Cameroon. Stefan has said a couple times that Mr. Fall he's definitely going. The government has welcomed it. It's just a matter of days. Yesterday, I spoke to the permanent representative of Cameroon, Thomas Monte, and he said, as a quote, "Why should he visit Cameroon?" So I'm just wondering, have you gotten, has the UN spoken with the Cameroonian mission here in New York? Because they don't, at least according to that, seem to be on board with the visit. And two, when will the visit take place, and will it include the Anglophone areas?
We are in touch with the Cameroonian authorities about a visit. They have agreed in principle to that, and we're working out the dates and arrangements.
Do you think, because there are commemorations of the October 1st killing scheduled for this Sunday, October 14th, does he intend to go before then? Is he aware of the potential for a repeat of what took place on October 1st? Because what's alleged now is that people were thrown out of helicopters, that live individuals picked up in the Anglophone areas were flown in helicopters and dropped to their death.
We want to make sure that all parties respect the rights to freedom of assembly, the rights to freedom of expression, and at the same time, of course, want to make sure that that all protest is carried out peacefully. Regarding Mr. Fall's travels, we'll provide further details once we have an announcement to make.
And could I ask something just a little more bureaucratic, less? It has to do with, on the schedule of the Deputy Secretary General today, it has listed in the morning something called an UTSTEIN meeting, or with the UN funds and programs. DSG will make remarks. One, I wanted to know if we can get the remarks. Two, like, what is an UTSTEIN? It seemed to be like kind of a term of art that we're supposed to understand. I'm not sure what it is. And thirdly, I'm wondering again if for the Deputy Secretary General and the Secretary General, you can make the same change that the PGA, Brendan Varma, or the PGA himself made, which is to archive the daily schedule. Just leave it up so it can be searched going back and doesn't disappear at the end of the day. So you can sort of find out who he's been meeting with and what's been going on. Is there a reason not to do that?
Yeah, there's a technical reason. It's difficult to add more buttons technically and more functions technically to our sites. If we can do it easily, we will do it. Otherwise, we do have paper records if you need those. And
how
beyond
about
that,
this UTSTEIN business?
I'm not aware of what an UTSTEIN meeting is either. There are many, many, many more bureaucratic phrases at the UN than one can possibly comprehend over the course of a lifetime.
Is there a way to get those remarks? And also, for some reason, maybe I just didn't get it, but the Secretary General, well, the presentation that was made to the Budget Committee yesterday, is there a way to actually, or even the ACABQ one, if these are presentations having to do with UN reform, is there a way to actually get what the proposal is?
I think some of them are posted online, so you can find them on our website. Have a good afternoon, everyone.